What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Alex Wilson. And today, we are talking free agency for the New York Giants. It's right around the corner, and we know one of the biggest needs for this team, offensive line. Not any particular position on the offensive line, just offensive line. Overall, a disaster in 2023. 85 sacks allowed, the most in the NFL, the most since 1990 in the NFL. Fixing this offensive line, it's going to be one of the top priorities for general manager Joe Schoen going into this offseason. And we've discussed a few names that the Giants could target in free agency to bolster this unit. And today we want to dive a little bit deeper into one of those names that we have mentioned in the past, and that's New England Patriots offensive lineman Michael Onwenu. And so I said offensive lineman rather than offensive tackle because this guy can play multiple positions up front, adding to his value, especially to the Giants, who have multiple needs on the offensive line. And recently, they were linked to him. There was a report from U Stadium, not sure how credible it is, but it makes sense that they would be linked to Michael Onwenu. He's a player with familiarity to this coaching staff. He would fit a massive need for the New York Giants, and he would come in at a market value that the Giants can probably afford. So we're going to go ahead and dive in a little bit deeper today into Michael Onwenu, what he could bring to the New York Giants, and kind of do a free agency profiler for this player that we think would be kind of a home run signing for the Giants if they were to land him. But before we dive into all that, make sure to leave a like if you do enjoy this episode. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Ring the bell so you don't miss an episode, and comment your thoughts on the topics down below in the comment section. If you're listening to Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review. Go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. Without further ado, Alex, how are you doing today, my friend? And what are your initial thoughts on Michael Onwenu being a top target for the Giants in free agency?
I'm doing pretty good. And look, guys, we all know the Giants need offensive line support. And I think there's a narrative going around that people would love to take a Joe Alt or an Olu Fashanu in the first round. And I get it. Like, it makes sense. You want to invest in the offensive line, but I'll throw this counter at you. Why are we going to draft another top offensive tackle if we haven't proved to be able to develop the last few players we've drafted, whether it be John Michael Schmitz? I know he was a rookie last year, so I'll kind of leave him out of the equation. But like Josh Azu, do we want to develop him? Marcus McKethan, Evan Neal's the standout. We can't develop players. And you're asking Joe Alt to now change from left tackle to right tackle, a position he's never played. And by the way, they are very different in a lot of ways. So it's a huge gamble. I'm of the boat, so the side of the boat that prefers to go out and get a proven commodity. I want to get someone who doesn't need development, can step in and be an instant impact player, and that we know is going to make a positive impact on this team, not maybe down the road. Can they make the transition? How long is it going to take? Is our developmental program better now? I like Carmen Bricillo. I think he's going to do a fine job, and I'm hoping he does because we need him to. But the truth is simple. Until he has proven that he can actually do the job at a high level in New York, I am not going to sit here and tell you he's going to do it at a high level in New York, because we've gone down this path of optimism before, assuming this is going to happen, assuming that is going to happen, and every time they step on our feet. So I feel like right now it's fair to say spend a little bit of money on the offensive line. The only investment we have there is Andrew Thomas. We can afford to put a little money into the offensive line, and Mike Onwenu is a really good option for the Giants. And as you mentioned, he's not just an offensive tackle. He's also an offensive guard. In fact, last year, he played the first 4 games at the right guard position, didn't play that well, and they transitioned him over to tackle on the right side, and he was excellent. Like, really good pass protection, solid run blocking, and by the way, he's only 26 years old. That's the type of player you invest in, a young player who can be with the Giants for the next 4 years and lock down an imperative position. And the truth is, Evan Neal, this is my take on the Evan Neal situation. They need to be cross-training him at guard and at right tackle, because the truth is, if he ends up becoming a great right tackle long-term, that's where we wanted him to be all along. That would be ideal. Mike Onwenu in that case would slide into right guard or one of the guard spots and be fine. But in all reality, we're looking more like Onwenu's at right tackle, Evan Neal's at right or left guard. That's the probable scenario if you go down that path. And I think that's the path the Giants have to go down. And it might not be Onwenu. It could be Jermaine Illuminor, who might be a little bit cheaper. I know he's 29. Obviously, 2 years of experience with Bricillo, so we know that there's palpable, connection there and chemistry. But, when it comes to Onwenu, the versatility is awesome. For example, if the Giants have an injury somewhere and they feel like, we're better off with Onwenu playing here and this guy playing right tackle, they have that luxury to utilize that flexibility in his nature. So I like that about him. He's going to be costly. But again, the Giants don't really have that much money tied up in the offensive line positions. And I feel as though right now is the time to do it. If you're going to go with Daniel Jones, you need to protect him. If you're going to draft the young rookie quarterback, you need to protect him no matter who the hell is playing quarterback for the Giants, whether it's DJ, a rookie, could be my freaking grandma. They got to protect the damn quarterback once and for all. It's been too long. I'm tired of being a bottom-ranked offensive line in pass protection. And for what it's worth, even if you're a good run blocking unit and a bad pass blocking unit, it doesn't really support you that much. I think the Giants are probably going to let Saquon walk. I think, Anthony, I'll let you touch on that. I know you're in the same boat as me on that one. It doesn't seem very likely at this point in time. So if Saquon walks, you draft a running back in the mid rounds, you invest that money in the offensive line, and for what it's worth, passing game is ultimately more important than a running game in this day and age. Obviously, a running game is equally as essential to winning championships and whatnot, but you don't need high-priced running backs. We've seen it with Isaiah Pacheco. We've seen it with tons of different teams. People will point to Christian McCaffrey. They lost the Super Bowl with Christian McCaffrey as the running back. So it's like they haven't been able to push it over the hump despite their elite roster. Patrick Mahomes is the kryptonite to any team in the NFL. But, what are your thoughts right now in terms of the versatility on what it brings to this offensive line and the idea that it's time to invest money, not just draft capital, because we have proven we cannot develop these picks?
Yeah, and I'll say it's not that the Giants have necessarily proven that they can't develop the picks. I think a large part of it is the fact that they haven't been patient enough with those picks. They have not given Josh Azito enough time to develop, but they also haven't put things in place for him to develop properly. And what I mean by that is Josh Azito is still a young player who has had a handful of starts in his career, a decent amount of playing time, but he hasn't been in the situation to really blossom because they've moved him across the offensive line, haven't let him get settled into one position. They've pulled him in and out of the starting lineup. They haven't had a lot of talent in front of him, so they've forced him into tricky situations with bad players on his left or right shoulder. So for Josh Azito, he kind of stands out as this shining example of the Giants have taken their chances on young offensive linemen. They have invested draft capital into the position group, but they have not given those young players enough time to breathe, settle into the NFL game, and truly develop. Again, keep in mind, Josh Azito lost pretty much his whole rookie season due to a neck injury. This kid hasn't played enough. So to say he's not an answer on the offensive line, you can't really say that. But you also can't say that he is an answer because you just don't know. So that's one of the things that I feel with the Giants offensive line is that they do have young talents. They have players that could reasonably become starting level quality players in this NFL, but they haven't given them enough time and they haven't given them the proper resources and the proper environment to develop into those players. There's a great chance that a guy like Josh Azito becomes a quality backup for the New York Giants, leaves in free agency when his rookie contract is over on a one-year deal. All of a sudden he develops into a quality starter. And I think that's not outside of the realm of possibility because of coaching, lack of development. As you mentioned, Bobby Johnson clearly did not do the right thing with this offensive line. Now we have Carmen Brasillo in here. We feel pretty confident in him, and I'll touch on him more later when I dive into Onwenu. But really, just overall, this offensive line, it has talent. Evan Neal has talent. He hasn't looked talented in the NFL so far. He has not played well. Those are facts. He's been a bad football player at the NFL level. But you can't say that he didn't step into the NFL with loads of talent. We were all excited when the Giants drafted Evan Neal. He was a stud left tackle and right tackle and left guard for Alabama throughout his collegiate career. He entered the NFL with a boatload of talent. Unfortunately, so far, he hasn't been able to put that talent together at the next level. Some of that might be because he's not comfortable playing right tackle, and they've been transitioning him over there, and it just hasn't been working. A lot of that could also be attributed to the fact that who's been playing alongside Evan Neal at right guard. It's kind of crucial for young offensive linemen to step into the league and have some good players playing around them. He hasn't had that, Evan Neal. He's had Mark Glowinski at right guard, Ben Bredesen sometimes, a lot of injuries at that right guard spot. With some added stability these past 2 years, who's to say Evan Neal wouldn't have played better with a better coach? Who's to say Evan Neal wouldn't have taken steps forward and developed properly? Who knows? And that's what we need to figure out this upcoming season. That's one of the things that we will find out with Carmen Brasillo. Is there still talent left to extract from Evan Neal? Is there enough talent to develop guys like Josh Azito, Marcus McKethan, and John Michael Schmitz, some of these young guys that the Giants have developed, or drafted rather, but have failed to develop? They've drafted these players. They have invested the draft capital. It is rare that you see an NFL team throw that many draft picks into their offensive line. A first rounder on Andrew Thomas, first rounder on Evan Neal, third on Josh Azidu, a fifth on Marcus McKethan, a second on John Michael Schmitz. Think about that, guys. Those are a lot of draft picks. And I'm sure that if you go back and you look at the draft and you take a look at where John Michael Schmitz was drafted, Josh Azidu, Marcus McKethan, there are undoubtedly players that went right after them who have panned out into starting roles in the NFL. But because the Giants are dead set on adding talent to this offensive line, they've missed out on those other players. So now, the way that I see it, it's time to bring in some quality, proven talent through free agency and just give these young guys that you keep investing in time to develop and stop bringing in new guys to develop even more. You don't think that Josh Azidu is a finished product? You don't think he's fully developed yet? How are you expecting another third or fourth or fifth round pick to step in and be more developed than he is? That's not going to happen. And even these first round players like Joe Alt. Joe Alt is a stud. I saw he got a pro comparison to Andrew Thomas. I think Joe Alt is going to be a plug and play left tackle, day one impact starter for an NFL team. But that's a left tackle. Do you really want to draft him and try and move him to right tackle where he might not be comfortable? Then you're going to blow up his rookie season. You're going to have Giants fans with picket fences and torches and screaming at Joe Shane and looking to blow up the team. It's just not the way to do it, in my opinion. The Giants need some quality, proven talent on their offensive line right now because they don't have any outside of Andrew Thomas. Everyone else is either a veteran who's bounced around teams or a rookie or second or third year player who has not had the proper chance to develop. So enter Mike Onwenu. This is where the conversation pivots to who could they target in free agency that could upgrade their offensive line in such a significant fashion. Well, one of the things that you mentioned about Onwenu, Alex, that I really love is his versatility. If you're looking at his career, 2020, he had 112 snaps at left guard, 185 snaps at right guard, and 616 snaps at right tackle. 2021, 276 snaps at right tackle, 290 at left guard. Okay, and then in 2022, only played right guard, 1,044 snaps. 2023, moved to right tackle, 656 snaps. And meanwhile, throughout all of this shuffling, throughout all of this movement up front on the offensive line, he's never surrendered more than 3 sacks in a season. This past season, he surrendered 23 pressures, which was a career high. That would be a career low for most of the players on the New York Giants offensive line. Every year he has produced at a high level, has been a high-quality offensive lineman, whether he's playing left guard, or right tackle, and he's always played an abundance of snaps. He's been a starter for the Patriots offensive line dating back to 2020, which, and I mentioned I was going to bring in Carmen Bracillo to this conversation, 2020, when Michael Onwenu was a rookie, he was playing under Carmen Bracillo. Carmen Bracillo was formerly the New England Patriots offensive line coach in 2020 before heading to Las Vegas in 2021, and now he's with the New York Giants. So what we like to do in free agency is find players who fit positions of need for the New York Giants and oftentimes have connections to the Giants coaching staff. Mike Onwenu fits both of those molds. He's got a connection to Carmen Bracillo, and he's a better offensive lineman than any other New York Giants offensive lineman outside of Andrew Thomas. Onwenu fits multiple needs for you because not only does he give you a starting right tackle if you don't want to start Evan Neal there, he gives you a starting right guard if you do want to start Evan Neal at right tackle. And here's another thing, starting Onwenu at right guard might make Evan Neal a better right tackle. Having a really high quality player next to Evan Neal, he hasn't had that yet. So having Onwenu next to Evan Neal might make Evan Neal play better, especially if Carmen Bracillo does develop him properly. And then furthermore, if you want to take a look at where Onwenu could play and where Evan Neal could play, if you move Evan Neal to the left side, then he's playing alongside Andrew Thomas. And then you can go ahead and start Onwenu at right tackle. Maybe you plug in Josh Azidu or Marcus McKethan at right guard, and hopefully John Michael Schmitz takes a step forward. Now your offensive lineman has improved significantly. So the added value of versatility here with Mike Onwenu makes him such an attractive option. But if you want to go even deeper, how about just the fact that he is a damn good pass protector? 1 sack allowed in 2022 across 1,000 snaps at right guard. In 2023, 3 sacks allowed, 850 snaps split between right guard and right tackle. The guy, no matter where he plays, is a damn good pass protector, and we know the New York Giants need better pass protection. They have really struggled to block in the passing game. And so Mike Onwenu is a really good player for the New York Giants. However, the one drawback here, Alex, and this is where I'll hand it back to you and kind of discuss market competition, supply and demand, basic economics. The New York Giants, not a good football team, need to sign good football players. Good football players, they're popular. The Jets want Mike Onwenu. The Chargers want Mike Onwenu. The Broncos want Mike Onwenu. there's going to be a bidding war here. He's going to have a steep price tag. And so the Giants are going to have to be prepared to dump a Brinks truck on him if they want to sign Michael Onwenu. So I think that he's the perfect fit for the New York Giants, would be the number one priority signing that I would make if I were Joe Schoen this offseason. He fixes multiple problems on your offensive line. He brings in stability, and he knows your offensive line coach. Checks all of the boxes. Onwenu is like the dream target for the New York Giants. You can't even conceive an idea for a better free agent target on the offensive line for the Giants. He checks every single box. However, because he checks all those boxes for you, he checks those boxes for other teams. And he's going to cost probably $18 million per season. The last time the Giants went into free agency and spent that big on an offensive tackle, Nate Solder from the Patriots didn't pan out. Actually was a terrible signing. One of the worst in New York Giants history, you could argue. So how comfortable do you feel, Alex, going into free agency and spending top of the market money on an offensive lineman like Mike Onwenu? Because again, he might not push into that $20 million range, but he's going to get pretty damn close, probably around $18 million per season across 4 years. How do you feel about the Giants potentially making that steep of a financial commitment to a free agent offensive lineman?
Well, I'll give you some good news that just popped up on my Twitter feed. The cap for 2024 just rose an mind-blowing, breaking record, $30 million. So that gives the Giants an additional $10 million to spend in free agency. I'll give you the numbers right now. This is if you're a Giants fan listening to this right now, you're freaking happy. And I'll tell you why. The Giants have $225 million in total cap liability right now. They have an estimated, this is via over the cap, $19.5 million in team cap space. So if you add that up, it gets to $245 million. Now the cap is set at $255 million. That's an additional $10 million to spend. What does that mean? Well, you can sign Mike Onwenu to $18 million per season now. And again, I think Connor Hughes just posted the Giants have $33 million. There's different metrics if you look at over the cap or spot rack or whatever. So let's go with $33 million that he posted. If the Giants restructure the deals to Andrew Thomas, restructure the deals to Dexter Lawrence, you can open upward of $55 million in cap space right now. Mike Onwenu, a pass rusher, a CB2, those three primary needs plus bringing back Xavier McKinney are all possible now, because you can also take the out in Daniel Jones contract. And by the way, this only reinforces my mentality that we need to draft a rookie quarterback, Anthony, because by God, if you have all this money and you get the money back from Daniel Jones' contract by taking the out next year, the Giants are going to be in such a good spot in terms of financial health. You can't even comprehend, And yes, the people that are saying that the contracts will be a little bit more expensive, yes, I do agree that's probably true, but not to the percentage that the cap just increased by $30 million. Record-breaking increase. So, players will get paid a little bit more, but not to that increase percentage. So, looking at what the Giants can do right now, you take that out in Daniel Jones' contract next year, you sign a couple free agents you desperately need right now, you have money to spend, and a rookie quarterback in tow. I mean, what more could you ask for? This is exactly what the Giants needed. You can go out and sign the players you want. That $10 million is Saquon Barkley if you're a Saquon Barkley fan. That's his contract right there, basically. I don't know if the Giants will do that. I'm just saying. That's basically the difference between keeping him and losing him. But Xavier McKinney, that's keeping Xavier McKinney. That's the money to keep him. That's the money to go get an offensive lineman. That's the money to go get a pass rusher. That's the money to get a CB2 with veteran experience and leadership. So, am I down to spend $18 million on Mike Onwenu? Yes. Why? Because we just saw the cap increase $30 million. Who the hell knows how much it's going to increase in 2025? You know what I mean? That's the kind of perspective I'm leaning into right now. I think over the cap has them, let's see, if you take $164 million in the Giants' total cap space right now that they have kind of allocated 2025 plus the $95 million they have in available space. Let's see, that comes in at $259 million. Dude, we have so much money. The $259 million is the projected payroll for 2025. It just went up $30 million. So let's estimate it increases another $15 million next year, which is 50% of what it just went up. You're looking at closer to $270 million in open space, which is an additional $10 million. And you're getting out a Daniel Jones deal. If the Giants have a chance to move up and get their quarterback right now, this is the best time to do it. You have a stupendous amount of money. You have a rookie quarterback in a rookie window, and you're saving $30 million additional dollars by cutting Daniel Jones after next season. The writing is on the wall, my friends. It is right there on the paper. It is staring you in the face. that is the way to go if you can get the quarterback. I mean, I get your take on it. I imagine this probably opens your eyes up a little bit too in terms of being able to spend more money at positions of desperate need.
Yeah, I mean, having that extra $10 million to spend is huge. Like, that does everything for your team. That's a lot of money. That goes a long ways. I mean, you could argue that that's enough to kind of overpay certain players if you want to. You know that you can comfortably pay players at the top of the market and sign them because now you have an extra $10 million to fall back on. You could even look at that as, here's my $10 million overspend budget. As long as I allocate this towards players that we were already going to sign, we're still good. Like, we're still under budget. And now it's just you're playing with a little bit of house money if you're the New York Giants. Another thing that this could mean for them, maybe they don't have to restructure certain contracts. I know that we've been talking about restructuring Andrew Thomas or Dexter Lawrence, and they still can do those things, and they still likely will, but they don't necessarily have to anymore. So I think that's another key takeaway from this. And so the Giants are going to have a lot of money to spend this offseason. We know that. We knew that they were going to have probably somewhere between 40 and 60 million, but whatever you thought it was going to be, whether it was 40 or 60, add 10. Now it could be 50 to 70 million. The Giants are going to have money to spend, and that's huge. And again, they don't have a whole lot of cap liabilities in 2025, 6, or 7. They only have, I think, Andrew Thomas and Dexter Lawrence under contract for that long. So you can definitely go into free agency, sign some players to long-term deals, whether they be your own players like Xavier McKinney, or if you want to bring in a guy like Michael Onwenu on a 4-year contract, you can afford to do that. The Giants have plenty of salary cap space, and that's why they need to retain certain players. You don't have that many good players on this team, but you do have Xavier McKinney, who's 24, going to be 25 this upcoming season. Really talented. We're going to continue to talk about him. But again, this further solidifies the idea that you have to retain your players, especially with the cap and the way that it keeps jumping up. A lot of Giants fans will say, I don't want to pay Xavier McKinney top of the market safety money, or maybe I don't want to pay Michael Onwenu top of the market tackle money. Top of the market tackle money right now, because of the way that the salary cap is jumping year after year, top of the market safety money, that's not going to be top of the market in 2 years. So you want to sign these players now. It's not going to look like the big contract that it is currently in 2 years from now with the way that the salary cap keeps rising an unprecedented amount year after year. So guys like Michael Onwenu, another reason I want to solidify this point, you could feel comfortable signing Michael Onwenu to such a big contract if Carmen Bricolo kind of gives his blessing. You know, if you're the Giants and you're Brian Dable and Joe Shane and you're like, okay, should we or should we not allocate this money towards Michael Onwenu? You could say, hey, Carmen, when you coached him back then, how coachable is he? Does he fit our culture? Do you think that you could extract more from him? Do you think you could keep him playing at a high level? Carmen Bricolo says yes. Then you say, okay, then we do feel comfortable spending this money on him, going all in and investing in Michael Onwenu. So I think that the Giants make a lot of sense for Michael Onwenu. Michael Onwenu makes a lot of sense for the New York Giants. So hopefully this offseason, that's the way that they upgrade their offensive line. I would love to see it happen. But if not, we're, of course, going to continue to dive into different free agents. There's other guys that they can sign at cheaper price points. Greg Van Roten at guard, Jermaine Illuminor at right tackle. There's a lot of different moves that the New York Giants can make here. But Michael Onwenu is going to be one of their priority signings if they decide to go offensive line in free agency. Although pass rusher could be another move that they make, which, again, we'll dive into on this channel and continue to update you guys with everything about the New York Giants, the NFL offseason, the salary cap updates, all of that stuff right here on Fireside Giants. So make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy this episode. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Ring the bell so you don't miss an episode. Comment your thoughts on the topics down below in the comment section. If you're listening to Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review. Go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. Without further ado, we will catch you all on the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Giants.